big changes, big, bold changes. And a lot of, some of them didn't work out, but they certainly led me to other things.
Welcome to What the 40 with me, Rich Rust. It's a genuine privilege to welcome today's guest, Zeena Zalamea. I'm especially grateful to Zeena as this is somewhat of a busman's holiday for her. Zeena is a broadcast journalist by trade, and as a producer and presenter, she's clocked up in excess of 5,000 hours of live, on-air content across the airwaves. Zeena produces shows for a diverse listenership of 200 plus nationalities, covering everything from breaking news to the world's biggest events, as well as interviews with celebs and global business leaders. But don't just take my word for it. Zeena has been recognised through multiple awards, including Illustrado Magazine's 100 Most Influential Filipinos in the UAE and the 300 Most Influential Filipinos in the Gulf. She has also been named as the Filipino Times Media Personality of the Year. Zeena juggles her broadcasting career with raising her 2 young children in Dubai. Zeena, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. You are my first in-person guest. Thank you.
Am I? Thank you, Rich. That is such a good introduction. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, actually, your kind of accolades speak for themselves, and it's quite something to have those kind of those titles bestowed upon you. And I just wondered, before we get into kind of the meaning of turning 40 and what that means, how do you kind of, you have a very impressive, very rich career, and we'll get into that in a second, but how do you kind of wear and carry the weight of being named those things? It's very impressive. Do you feel that you have to be a role model? Does it impact how you go about your day-to-day? How does that kind of play out?
I didn't actually realize that I had a responsibility that came with those accolades. But someone told me, a very good friend of mine said, you know what? Some people, especially the ones in our community that, have hopes and dreams of becoming successful in their career, they look up to you.
Yeah.
And you should be proud of that, because sometimes, I don't know if it's low self-esteem or just, working behind the scenes. I haven't thought about kind of bigging myself up or putting myself out there and, making a big thing about my awards or whatever. But a lot of people have told me it actually makes a difference. And to share your knowledge and experiences with other people, that's something that they will appreciate. And I've actually started doing that as of late.
Yeah, that's great. And it suddenly becomes relatable to people who are trying to get there or trying to strive to do something similar, I guess. They can kind of, you can kind of share your experience and perhaps give them a pathway that they may not have been able to envisage before.
Yes, exactly. So last week, I gave a talk at this event sponsored by, it's a group of small business owners called the Fearless Fab Flamingos. And I thought, oh my gosh, here goes nothing.
Yeah.
My speech or my talk was about, being the face and voice of your business.
Yeah.
If you don't have the budget for marketing or to hire a publicist, how do you represent your business?
Yeah.
By being your number one ambassador or endorser.
Yeah.
And I only had 3 points really, how to introduce yourself, because every introduction is a power pitch. You may be meeting your future business partner or another customer or gaining a fan. The other thing was telling your story. And the other thing was using your authentic voice. And I thought these are really basic things, but these are things they haven't thought about because they're busy with the day-to-day operations of their business.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that these are the things they should be concentrating on as well, on top of running their business. And to be able to add value to their lives and, their business was such a big thing for me. So I've decided this is something that I really want to continue.
Nice. And is that something that you get asked to do a lot, or have you had to kind of seek out those opportunities, or did they kind of find you? How does that work?
So funny enough, I was never a good networker. I had, a full-time job for 10 years, and then I left that job. So after leaving my full-time job, I didn't realize there was a whole world out there of people that are willing to support you, whether or not you were affiliated with an organization.
Yeah.
So I started seeing people, meeting them for coffee, and then these opportunities started coming to me.
Yeah.
So, we have an event, are you free to talk? And I think, I've forged partnerships that I'm really grateful for, and I think this is the start of something new.
Yeah,
Fingers
cool.
crossed.
Very cool. And do you think, interestingly, just thinking about where we live in the world and how this place operates, do you think there's a kind of an ecosystem? My sense is always that people are very keen, when you get into that kind of environment, people want you to do well. There's a genuine kind of feeling and momentum towards it. And do you think that's unique to Dubai? Do you think it has a kind of an ecosystem that helps, or can it be challenging?
You know what? I used to think it was challenging because I
Yeah.
used to think that people are out to just promote themselves. But you can't really do that without a good support system
Yeah.
or without being a good, genuine person,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So,
You get found out, right? So
Yes.
people would realize that quite quickly.
yeah, so you kind of know who the fake people are and you kind of know who the people that are genuinely interested in collaborating and seeing you rise or seeing you succeed in whatever project you're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, your career achievements are impressive. They speak for themselves. But you're now freelancing. Is
Yeah.
that right? So talk to me about the kind of stuff that you're up to. I mean, I'd love to go backwards and find out how you got here. But what are you up to, kind of day to day at the moment?
Well, I produce 3 shows on the radio.
Amazing.
One is about cars,
Yes.
wildly popular.
Which I love, by the way. It's a brilliant show. But tell us more about it.
You listen to it.
I do listen to it. Motormania.
Motormania
Yes.
with Damien Reed.
Yeah, he's very
joined
good.
by a number of very talented car experts as
Yeah.
well. Naz Chowdhury, automotive entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You've also got Imtishan Gado and Noel Ebden. They all bring something unique to the table.
Yeah.
And it's one of our most interactive shows. A lot of people
Brilliant.
call in and basically say, I've got a tired old Prado. I want
Yeah.
to sell it. How much do you think it's worth? And they deliver.
Yeah.
They give them a price on the spot. They recommend cars. So for someone who is coming from a place that has zero knowledge of
Yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
I really appreciate the show.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they've put me on there. So it doesn't sound too technical or too
No.
kind of focused
But
on.
they're really knowledgeable. Like they genuinely know everything. When you hear them talk, A, they're passionate, and B, they just know their subject matter expertise is impressive.
Exactly. And they really know how to relate to people.
Yeah.
So, for example, you had a listener and she's like, I don't know how to change my tires. And they handled it so well.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, actually, a lot of people here don't know how to change
Yeah.
their tires. And you shouldn't have to. Here's what you should do.
Yeah.
So I like that they cater to everybody and not just the people who love cars.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's such an easy show to listen to. I love it. It's when does that go out? Is it Saturday morning?
Saturday from 10 to 12. But I
Nice.
also produce the one that comes after that.
Yeah.
A brand new show about
Okay.
tech, Web3, obviously.
Very cool.
AI, with the
Yeah.
emergence of AI, it's given us a lot of interesting content.
Yeah.
It's hosted by Sonal Rupani.
Yeah, she's brilliant. Yeah.
She's amazing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of the stories we do, so we interviewed a startup founder in Spain. She spoke to him, and he developed a robot that can inseminate women.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because apparently, if you work in a lab and you do IVF,
Yeah.
you have to have a certain skill set and it requires precision. And a robot
Yeah.
can do that now with the help of basically a PlayStation controller.
Wow. It's just wild. Where all this stuff is going is wild. But the health tech piece of it is like I think that's where the most exciting evolutions could be, because it's very easy to kind of see these doomsday scenarios about AI and where things are headed. But actually, when you start to see these incredible stories around how it's going to advance healthcare and medicine, that to me is genuinely exciting.
Oh, totally. I mean, it will wipe out a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
That's been confirmed by a
Yeah.
number of experts. But the benefit to the patient is
Yeah.
just tremendous. And I'm passionate about that because I lost my mom to renal disease. And she was diagnosed quite late.
Yeah.
And even though the Philippines, there are so many brilliant doctors there, there was nothing they could have done to save her life at that time. She had a kidney transplant, but after that, her health deteriorated. So she
Yeah.
had a good 8-9 years after the transplant. But I feel like if the medical advances of today existed then she would probably still be here with us. So
Yeah.
really passionate about that subject.
Yeah, well, it does give hope to many millions of people as things progress, and it is incredible. I was lucky to go to South by Southwest this year, and I saw the kind of emerging tech trends by the Future Today Institute with Amy Webb, and it just blew my mind in terms of, she talked a lot about the industrial metaverse, and then specifically around the kind of med tech and future healthcare, and they were talking about things like, doctors could be remote. So, you could have a doctor in California who's operating effectively on somebody in Dubai.
Yeah.
And that's mind-blowing. And it brings a whole kind of regulatory, different conversation to it. But yeah, fascinating. Well, I'm going to listen to that show. That sounds Very good.
Yes, please. I'll send you the links to the podcast and listen live.
Awesome. I will. So, Zeena, you were telling us about your current role. So you mentioned the 2 shows that you mentioned 3 shows.
Yeah, there's another one that's about startups. It's sponsored by Virtue Zone. It's doing really well.
Great.
We feature a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, telling their journey. And that's actually really inspired me.
Cool.
So jumping into the freelance world and producing a startup show, it kind of helped develop my entrepreneurial spirit. And now my dream is, or my goal, I've been told not to say dream, but goal.
Yes.
Make it happen. During the summer, I'm going to build my own thing. I've just got to zero in on one particular goal and really work on that.
Okay, brilliant. So I saw your tweet today, by the way, where you said, where you were talking about this, and you said, I'm not going to do feet pics, which I thought was hilarious. And which is... There are some weird people out there who will pay for all kinds of things. So can you tell us any more about that, or are you still defining it, or?
Well, actually, so after I gave that talk, and I was planning on doing this anyway, but I wasn't sure if there was a need for it. I wanted to focus on micro to small business owners because ultimately they're the ones that need our help. So we are communications professionals, but because we're so kind of embedded or immersed in our industry, we don't even know that what we know is valuable to other people. We just assume that, these are the basics of communication. So people should know this. But there are so many things and so much knowledge we can impart that maybe we could charge for. So I'm trying to develop a program for small businesses so that they can develop the confidence and the knowledge to become the face and voice of their business.
Nice.
I'll get around to the taglines and the pitches, but that is the rough idea.
Very cool. I mean, you make a good point, which is, you take it for granted when you have this kind of deep knowledge of a subject, and to you it's just every day. But I guess if people are concerned wholly with their business and their world, they don't have the time or the space to think about those things. So actually you are probably incredibly valuable to them in ways that you may not have considered.
Exactly. And so after that talk, a lot of people approached me and said, I would pay for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to charge for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
well, great. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And how are you finding, so you kind of you talked about going from kind of, full-time employment into a freelance role. How have you found that transition, and has it kind of given you everything you expected from that?
Work with a lot of Gen Zers.
Yeah. Yes.
They're in their mid-20s.
Yeah.
To them, I'm a dinosaur. So I always have to explain, I've got kids and, this happened during my time. I'm like, oh my goodness. But at the same time, I'm learning from them.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different thinking.
Yeah.
And it's good to kind of refresh your professional knowledge because they know a lot of stuff now that maybe I didn't know when I was their age.
You kind of sharpen your skills based on and you see the world differently as well. I mean, it's definitely, the mindset has shifted entirely, hasn't it, in terms of A, their expectations, but B, what they're willing to show up and do in the work context. It's kind of, I think it's terrifying and massively exciting in equal measure. But obviously the podcast is called What the 40. You recently turned 40. Happy belated. When did you turn 40?
Thank you. Oh, it was in August.
Okay.
In 2022.
So, and what did you do to celebrate?
So when I turned 39, it kind of hit me. I have 1 year to turn my life around if I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? So I started looking into my job, what can I change? I started looking into the time I spent with my family. I wasn't happy. I wasn't spending much time with them. And if I did, it wasn't quality time. So I started making small changes. I stopped reading books when I gave birth to Tegan, my firstborn. So I changed a lot of things. And leading up to, the big 4-0, I quit my job of 10 years.
Yes. Yeah.
I started going for checkups with a doctor.
Yeah.
And I started working on our finances. I basically hired a financial coach. We Zoomed with my husband, and basically we filled out this Excel sheet. Okay, when we retire, how much do we want to have, or where do we want to be, and how can we get there? These are really difficult conversations. And I got married in 2015, and we didn't even know how many bank accounts we had
Yeah.
until we sat down last year. So big changes, big, bold changes. And a lot of, some of them didn't work out, but they certainly led me to other things that I wouldn't otherwise have explored.
No, that makes really good sense. So you when you're 39 and you knew that you were headed towards 40, and you embraced it as a conscious decision to make some, I guess, a number of smaller changes, which would ultimately lead to a bigger change overall. Yeah. And now you're hopefully reaping the sort of benefits of making those changes. It's interesting you talk about, acknowledging things that you weren't perhaps happy with. Reading's a really interesting example. So obviously something you used to like doing, and you realized that you had stopped being able to do that. You talk about the kind of the dynamic of two of you having this conversation with a finance coach. And without getting too personal, did you find that you had to kind of embrace all of the changes together, or were you able to make them personally? I mean, how does that play out? Because it's something I always think about, and I think if two people aren't aligned in terms of their plans, then that can always be tricky as well.
Yeah, well, I had to hire the financial coach to tell my husband that, hey, this is really important. So you guys should go on money dates. And we do that a lot. So once a month we go to, a bar, a cafe. The financial coach says it has to be somewhere cheap because it defeats the purpose of discussing money and then splurging somewhere nice. So it's a very low-key date. I bring my laptop, and this is where we are. Since we spoke to our coach, have we achieved our goal, or and honestly, it's going great. Every time we meet up, every time we have our money date, we're always closer to our goal.
Brilliant.
So it's good to really take stock of the situation, whether it's your financial life, your health, etc. So turning 40 in the lead up to the big 40, I realized that these are the things that I should really be focusing on, and not the day-to-day stuff that you're so kind of lost in.
It's interesting. First of all, I'm massively inspired by what you've just said, by the way. So thank you. And I'm hoping that people listening might be as well, because there's so much to be said for that. So just to go back to the money date idea, so you I'm genuinely intrigued. So you sit down and you basically say, right, we're going to go through, we don't need to go into specifics, but we're going to go through a number of things in our kind of financial health, and we're going to talk. This date is about talking about those things. I love it. That's brilliant. That's such a good idea.
2 hours in a month.
Yeah.
And it kind of clears your mind, because your mind's always cluttered because you don't have a long-term goal. So now we have a long-term goal. We have a number in mind that we're working towards. Yeah. So if I think my current job or my current business isn't kind of leading to that goal, then I need to make changes. Yeah. And it's so embarrassing that I learned this at 40.
No, I don't think it is. I think and this is an interesting point, and we'll get into kind of what it means to be 40, but I think there's so much noise. There's, you're so busy, you have so much going on, whether it's work or home. I think it probably is the right time to kind of reflect on this. But I guess ultimately, and this is an interesting point that I've discussed with a couple of other people on the podcast, which is, I think 40s are you're kind of mid-career, right? So I guess it probably is the time to think about, well, what do we do for the next half of the career? Where do we want to land from a financial point of view, or from a, retirement point of view more broadly? I think that kind of makes sense.
That's a really good way of looking at it, because when I was in my 20s in Dubai, I used to see 40-year-olds and I'm like, they're finished. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that this is a really good place to start over if you want to make big changes in your life. So, for example, I haven't been living a healthy lifestyle. I mean, I quit smoking when I was 29, which was a big achievement. That was cold turkey. Yeah. But in terms of really sticking to a strict diet, I'm really bad at that. So that's something I also want to change. So you're right. 40 is a good opportunity to start.
Yeah, and I think I hate using the words like reinvention, but it's definitely a moment to pause and think, and, and I think if you're lucky to have your health and things are going well, then actually you've got so much time where you can do so much. But actually, there's something about defining a common goal, whether it's financial or any area of your life, where having something to work towards, exactly as you described, you can kind of optimize as you go. And at least you've got that North Star. Like that's kind of where you're headed.
Having a goal is really good. Also writing things down.
Yeah.
I used to have a journal since I was 13, and I stopped. I don't know what it is about having kids, but I stopped a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I kind of lost my identity.
Yeah.
On our street, I'm known as Auntie Zeena.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm reduced to that. I'm
Yeah.
just like Tegan's mom. But now I'm starting to really focus on certain things that I've neglected. One of the things that you mentioned, reinvention, I'm kind of transitioning into becoming a better version of myself, but it's not easy because a lot of people who have known you for years will look at you and say, she's being weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
She is definitely midlife crisising.
Yeah.
And maybe I am, but it's something I want to do at this point. And if I don't do this now, then I'll spend the next 10 years kind of agonizing over it.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a great ethos because, ultimately it's your life. You can do whatever you like, and actually embracing, I think there's something around just recognizing the things that you want to focus on and change. And ultimately, if that brings you kind of, A, gets you closer to your goals, B, brings you some fulfillment on the way, then it makes complete sense. You do make an interesting point about when you have kids and your identity. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is just how you juggle, particularly with your life. You're producing 3 shows. You're obviously kind of establishing a freelance work environment, but you also have young children and a busy, demanding family life. So how do you find kind of juggling all of that and it sort of day to day?
I'm still not there.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, I've gone freelance. It's good for being flexible. I do a lot of the work at home.
Yeah.
But also I've made it a point to keep Friday free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my kids are in school in the morning, but in the afternoon we spend time together.
Yeah.
So that's the whole afternoon is with them, and it's
Nice.
quality time, phones off, etc.
Yeah.
In the morning, I work on my own things. So I'm not working for the radio or TV for any client, but I'm trying to create this program, right?
Yeah.
So this morning from 8 to 12, I worked on that. There's still a lot to be done.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it is, and the interesting thing about being 40, you thought you never had to learn a bunch of skills that you would kind of outsource.
Yeah.
But now I'm using Canva. I'm subscribed to ChatGPT. I'm doing everything on my own. And it's exhilarating because learning is always exhilarating.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And you make a good point. And actually, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier around kind of tech. Yeah. How cool is it that all of these tools are available to you and you can lean into, you can, go, I need to get something designed. There's a tool for that. I need ChatGPT is an amazing resource.
Yeah.
I know there's stacks of news, positive, negative, but it is, if you use it properly, it's so useful and rich.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's made my job so much easier.
Yeah.
And one of the things I use ChatGPT for is for brainstorming.
Yeah.
I just want to validate my ideas and see if there's anything I've missed.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say it's probably cheating. You're basically asking the internet to do your job for you. But honestly, if it saves me time, if it does the job, who cares?
Yeah, and you're still the decision maker. You're simply using it to kind of bounce things off and get more input. I think I completely disagree that it's cheating. I mean, unless you ask it to write an essay for you, or to then fair enough. Yeah, that probably is. And actually, that's a whole different use case where I guess it must be a disaster for universities. But I was going to ask, and it sounds like, you seem to me to be very self-motivated. You've kind of set goals. You've got clear vision of where you're headed and what you want to do. But what are the things what are your kind of, aside from that, your kind of, motivators day to day, particularly in, I guess you've worked in radio for a long time, you work in TV, it's pretty cool and exciting. What do you still love it? And what are the things that kind of get you up and get you excited every day, work-wise?
Good content.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I come across a story and I think, oh gosh, this could be our exclusive, or this is something that would really look good on the show, or my host will love this. A good story gets me excited.
Yeah.
I know it sounds nerdy and probably detrimental because you're always chasing that high of discovering a story. And if someone else finds it, you're like, oh, damn it. But yeah, that's what gets me up. I think content is definitely my strength. And I don't know how you really sharpen that skill. I think it's just years of doing it day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. I think that's one of the benefits of being 40, and without, I don't want to kind of ram the number down your throat, but being 40, you've got such rich experience through, 2 decades of a career that actually the muscle memory of understanding what does make a good story, knowing what to look for. I guess all of that stuff kind of comes together, but you have the added benefit of knowing kind of where you're headed, and you can filter out things, I guess, and that must be quite refreshing.
Oh, yeah, it is refreshing. And one of the other things I want to mention is it's good to surround yourself with people that are super talented, that can help you grow. You don't want to work with people that can't teach you anything, right? So that's what I do every day. I make sure that the people I work with are adding value to my life, and I hope I also add value to theirs. Yeah,
well, I'm sure you are, Zeena, and it brings me brilliantly to the next question, which is, you've worked in the UAE for a lot. When did you first come to the UAE?
Came here when I was 23. It was in 2006 with my best friend.
Yeah.
We were working at the biggest TV station in Manila, in the Philippines, actually. So I was in entertainment. I was writing scripts for not sure what that, it was like a variety show, lots of singing and dancing.
Yeah.
And my best friend, Fifi, was working for the news department. And we both worked the graveyard shift.
Yeah.
There was one week when I was asked to write a script on a Monday, and there were so many revisions, I didn't leave the building until Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And I thought, and we earned something like 450 dirhams.
Yeah.
Because we were fresh graduates. I'm like, I do not want to be living like this forever. And it takes it takes years to really climb that ladder because of competition.
Yes.
And also because, there's wasta everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, and I told my best friend, we need to get out of here.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Started Googling places, and we found out that Dubai was setting up a media city.
Okay, yeah.
So let's just pack our bags.
Amazing.
Let's see what happens. At that time, I'm not sure if that was the done thing, but we got here, ate shawarmas for lunch every single day. And it was 250,
Amazing.
2 dirhams 50 fils at that time. So that was our budget. And then in 10 days, we got jobs.
Amazing. That's incredible. That's incredible. And so how has the media space evolved here in that time? Because I've lived here 8 years and there's so many examples of how this city has evolved, and the pace and the ambition of this place just blows me away daily. But you must have really kind of lived that in the world that you operate in. So how would you describe the change over that time?
Oh, goodness. When I got here in 2006, I really didn't find any opportunities in the TV space because everything was in Arabic. So I got here in February. In November, they opened an English TV station.
Okay, yeah.
And at that point, I thought, there could be opportunities for us here.
Yeah.
So we found jobs. I told you within 10 days we found jobs. It was in a media company, but it wasn't in the broadcast industry.
Yeah.
And, it was mostly kind of looking after things, admin stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that anymore. So after a few months, we heard about this TV station setting up. We applied, we got jobs, but we really had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Researchers, assistants, that sort of thing. Thankfully, we were given opportunities. I was able to fly to India, to Oman, and do travel features.
Yeah.
I was their roving reporter every single day,
Nice.
covering breaking news, fires. There was a plane crash at that time in Sharjah, I remember. So I was sent to that. I also interviewed Shah Rukh Khan. That's still my claim to fame.
Amazing.
Especially to my Indian friends.
Yes.
So it really opened a lot of doors for me.
Yeah.
That station wasn't perfect, and I had to leave after 3 years for personal growth and career development. But honestly, a lot of the people that I work with now are the people I met at that time when I was working there.
Incredible. And that's what I was going to ask you, actually. I guess you must have grown up with, in a professional sense, many of the people that have existed here in media for all of that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these people, I'm really grateful to them. I didn't have to prove myself or start from scratch.
Sure.
They knew what I could do.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gave me an in.
Yeah, and a professional credibility and kind of track record, I guess, that they could vouch for.
Yeah. So there was a businessman who said, and I'm not sure this is like his quote, but he said, "Your network is your net worth."
Yes. Yeah.
Who said that?
I don't know, but I like it. We should find out.
I know.
Yeah.
So, and that's really true.
Yeah.
Because luckily for me, in the 17 years that I've been here, I can count the times that I had to send a resume or reach out to someone.
Yeah.
It was always, let's catch up, how you doing?
Yeah.
And then magical things happen.
Yeah, they do. And particularly if you invest in those relationships over time. No, it's so true. So that brings me wonderfully to, what are you most excited about for the next, you've turned 40, you've clearly made some epic decisions around your goals and where you're headed. So what excites you most about, and it can be professionally or personally, but what are you looking forward to the most over the course of the next 10 years?
You know what excites me? And this is going to sound cheesy, but I really want to see how I react to failure.
Yeah.
Because I've never failed before. I would get jobs.
Yeah.
And then that's it. I would get a salary every month, and then I would get another job. That was my life. So now I do a lot of freelance for radio. I've got TV, but I want to see how I can develop myself further. I want to see if I can really start a business of my own.
Yeah.
And thank God I've kind of thrown myself into the self-help rabbit hole because I got a lot of advice from all these people, Simon Sinek.
Where do you seek your inspiration? What are your kind of favorite sources of, finding out all of the things that you need to kind of help you on your journey?
Well, podcasts are great.
Yeah.
Books are great. But I think it's the people that I think have the wisdom that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
So, I'll ask my friend out for a coffee because I know she'll be able to advise me on certain things. It's basically the people around me. I have a great network, and I think that, I can add something to their lives and they can add something to mine.
Yeah.
So we can help each other out. I'm all for collaboration, and I seek inspiration from them because they are experts in their industries. They've been there, done that, especially the startup founders. I have so much respect for them because if you dig into their story, they've failed 1,000 times before, and now they're just getting this particular business up and running.
And it's a mindset, isn't it? It's they realize that actually failure is part of the journey, and you have to embrace that in order to get there. Without that, you may never achieve your goals.
Exactly. And that is something, sounds embarrassing again, something I realized just very, very recently. You can't go on in life and not fail at least once.
No, you can't. I think it's really true. There's a huge amount to be said for that. It just gives you richer experiences of how to do it properly the next time.
Exactly. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
How I'll react to failure, how I'm going to get up. Hopefully I don't fail a lot of times. I haven't got a lot of time to get this off the ground, but
nice.
That's one of the things. And also time management is a big thing for me. I don't think I'm juggling it well. I don't spend enough time with my family. So I really want to see how I can make this work, still reach my income target and spend a healthy amount of quality time with my kids and my husband.
Yeah. I guess the fact that you can even acknowledge that and you know that, it means that you're addressing it by default. So it's, you'll get there for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because so when you turned 40, were there any physical changes that you thought, it's like it happened overnight? For me, it was the eyesight.
Yeah.
Like overnight, I suddenly turned blind. I couldn't see, and I needed glasses, and glasses here are like 2,000 dirhams a pair.
Yeah.
So that was one of the kind
right?
of visible signs.
Literally, as you turn 40, your eyes just changed almost overnight.
Yeah, well, not literally, maybe 2 months before.
Okay.
Suddenly, I couldn't read the book without kind of, I think there's a term for that. What is it? Farsighted?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to make sure the book was like 2 meters away from my eyes for me to be able to read it. So, and then suddenly there were all these like physical symptoms. Like my bones feel crunchy. I need to stretch more than I used to. What else?
It's a really good point. I've been very lucky. I think physically I feel okay. I definitely have more aches and pains in my joints and stuff. But partly because I've been trying to be more physically active. So because I've been doing that, I've been doing like lots more squats and things, and suddenly I'm like, oh my God, my knees are really starting to feel this. I mean, and then over time it improves. But I don't think I noticed any. I mean, one thing I did know, I kind of occasionally you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I don't think I've changed. Then you see a picture of yourself and you go, oh wow, I really have changed. Like I am actually a lot older than I thought I was.
Yeah, sometimes you look so much better than 10 years from,
Yeah,
10 years ago.
It's true. But no, overall I feel okay. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about being 40. You can't do anything about it, right? There's nothing you can't change it.
You can't change it, but last week I was at a biohacking summit.
Okay.
And apparently there's lots of things you can do.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. We're actually interviewing a biohacker, and he's 32. He's confident he can live to 150.
Wow.
Because of all the things that he's doing. I met him. His name is CJ.
Okay.
He had a device, sort of like a digital necklace, that changes his mood. So, for example, if he wants a boost in his energy, he'll turn on the caffeine mode.
Amazing.
But you can turn it off and then turn on melatonin mode if you want to relax.
If you want me to sleep.
Yeah, because he says, you drink a cup of coffee, it takes you 6 hours to leave your system.
Yeah.
So at least with this, you can switch on and off like different types of moods.
Where do I get one of these bio necklaces?
I know. It looks like you've been to prison, like one of those ankle things.
Yeah, what's the film where they put them around your, I don't know, one of those sci-fi films.
Yeah, and then he wears these patches to protect him from EMF.
Wow.
And then he wears a necklace. Apparently the pendant helps as well. So, yeah, he wears a lot of devices, and he does a lot of red light therapy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's into stem cell, but that's something I will explore because I'm really interested in that.
So I have a couple more quick questions for you, Zeena, and these are kind of related. But one of them is, we've talked a lot about motivation and being busy and all of the amazing things that you're doing, but what do you like to do to just kick back and relax and forget all of the other stuff that's going on?
It sounds very Dubai, but I love staycations.
Yes.
And we didn't used to do them. So during the pandemic, because my husband would always say, let's just save up for the next big holiday, like go to the States for a month or drive around the UK. But during the pandemic, we had no choice, and we actually got pretty good deals. So in July of 2020, no one wanted to stay at hotels, even though they were open.
Yeah.
Not all the facilities were open, but, we were okay with that. For example, Babel Shams, 500 dirhams a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because everyone were just so happy to see us at the hotel, they had things like free popsicles, because in the middle of the summer, right? And lots of discounts at restaurants. So we just kept on going on staycations. I think we took about 10 during the pandemic.
Brilliant.
And my husband was convinced, okay, if we really just want a quick getaway recharge, let's do a staycation.
I think it's great advice. And actually, we do live in, it does sound Dubai, but also we're very lucky to live in a place where you can do that. And
what was your last staycation?
Gosh, that's a good question. We've not done one for a long time, not since before Roman was born, I don't think.
Oh, gosh.
But we used to do a lot before that. We used to go up to Ras Al Khaimah quite a lot.
Waldorf Astoria.
Waldorf and Rack, one of my favourite places. So good. Okay, one more question, final question, and that is, what is your guiltiest pleasure?
Oh, that is really difficult. Foot massages.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Spend a lot on them. A ridiculous amount.
Nice. I hope you get your kids to do it, because that you could start charging them, or they could start charging you for that. That's a good business line right there.
I know, but the pressure isn't good enough yet.
No.
I'm trying to train them. Give their ask their fingers to do little push-ups like that.
Yeah. To get them stronger.
But I do like, foot reflexology, acupuncture, just like foot massages at salons.
Nice.
I don't know. I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
And it's better than a full body massage if you just have 30 minutes.
Just relaxes you. Yeah, but there's something about, and I don't understand the science, but there's something amazing about talking about reflexology, and your feet just has such an impact on your body, positive impact on your body.
I know. And the annoying thing I do when, a therapist massages my feet, I'm like, which organ are you touching? Is that the tummy? Is that the tummy? Is that my shoulder?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's...
And you feel better afterwards? You genuinely feel better afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Much, much better.
Okay.
So there's that, and there's a TV show that my husband and I watched that literally no one in Dubai likes or maybe has heard of.
Yeah.
It's called I Think You Should Leave.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that.
It's a sketch show, and it's by Tim Robinson. He used to be at Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But my husband and I don't tell people because literally nobody knows about it.
Okay.
But we love it, and
Nice.
it's in its third season. And for my 40th birthday, my husband, he gave me 3 posters that were related to the show.
Amazing.
And now I'm on the wall.
But that's lovely. That's something that you guys share and obviously are passionate kind of fans of. I love that. That's a great present for you.
Yeah.
Because it's personal and you know what it means.
It's personal. He got it off Etsy, which
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Honestly, because he's like, I didn't even know he knew what Etsy was.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he got advice, but it's still a brilliant present.
It was.
Cool. Zeena, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Rich. That was fun.
Thank you. It was fun. Thank you.